Folks, excuse me, you've heard about this blue tsunami that's coming in 2018, and I honestly believe that's true. And I believe it's true for several reasons. One, because progressives, younger people, minorities, people of color are becoming more politically active. But there's a second reason why a tsunami may be coming. That reason is gerrymandering. Excuse me. Gerrymandering has been going on since 1812, I believe. And it started in all places in Massachusetts. Now, gerrymandering, if you don't know what it is, it's drawing congressional lines that favor whichever party is drawing those lines. In northern states, a lot of the times you'll see gerrymandering, which may favor Democrats, but particularly in southern states, you will see gerrymandering that absolutely favors the Republican Party. Now, the map that you see in front of you is a map that basically shows gerrymandering, and the darkest areas within the map are those areas that are most egregiously drawn as far as the congressional district lines are concerned. Now, when I talked about that blue tsunami that's coming, I say that because hope is looming that gerrymandering is going to take a hit. A recent decision by a federal court in the case of Wilford versus Gill ruled that gerrymandering districts in Wisconsin unfairly suppressed the vote. The Supreme Court now has promised to hear that case on appeal, inciting speculation that a slew of gerrymandered districts suffer under one-party rule and may see relief in the near future. Now, there are a bunch, and I do mean a bunch, of states that are going to have to redraw their lines based on either state or federal court rulings. Those states are Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Texas, Florida, Alabama, and Virginia at the present time. Now, I'm going to give you some information regarding the top 10 states as far as gerrymandering is concerned. The number one state in the country as far as gerrymandering is concerned is North Carolina. There you go. North Carolina's strategy has been to cram minority voters into districts 1, which you can see here, and district 12, which is, you see that little hell, it looks like a snake or a lizard, that blue area up in here. That's District 12. Okay? And they have cut out unfriendly urban areas, in some cases, block by block, in Durham and Charlotte, North Carolina. A new map has already been recommended as a result of the Supreme Court decision and dramatically adjusts district boundaries. If the boundaries are drawn as the Supreme Court has indicated, you're going to have a couple of Republicans that are going to be on the endangered species list. Those Republicans are George Holding, obviously a Republican, Richard Hudson, and Ted Bund. That would be Districts 2, right here, District 8, right here, this giant district right here, and District 13 right here. District 1 is going to bleed over with the redrawn lines, So 13 is going to disappear. 4 is going to take a large bite out of District 2. And what was the other one? 2, 13, and District 8. This is going to bleed like crazy into District 8. And there are a lot of people of color in this district. It's going to bleed this way, and it is going to have a dramatic effect on the vote for the House of Representative member. Now, the second most egregious state is a northern, well, it's a northern state. I consider Maryland a northern state. And yes, Democrats do it too. The area right here and right there, District 2, Albert Ruppelsberger III, a Democrat, is going to have a problem here. You got at District 3, John Surbanes, he's a Democrat. He's going to have a problem here with the bleeding in. And of all the districts, District 7, Elijah Cummings, he may not be as smart as he thinks he is, and he might, after all is said and done, should have reconsidered running for Senate in the vacated seat instead of giving it up to one of Nancy Pelosi's favorites. Now, the third state, which absolutely is going to have to redraw their lines, is Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, it is a shame. What they did was they started diluting the interest of the major urban areas like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Reading. And what they did there was they basically divided those particular cities into separate areas. Now, the map is still going to favor Republicans somewhat, but at the present time, Pennsylvania has 13 Republican House of Representative members to 5 Democratic members. That 13 is probably going to drop by at least 2 to 3. The people that are going to have a problem are Ryan Castillo, Pat Meehan, and you could see him a lot on TV, and Lloyd Smucker. The next state that should be considered is West Virginia. Now, everybody knows West Virginia is pretty much dead red, but it's not as dead red as you might think. With the gerrymandering lines, and West Virginia is not under a court order and has not lost a lawsuit, but the Supreme Court decision later in this year is going to have an effect on them as well. What they did was they whittled down what used to be 6 different districts into 3. And since they reduced the districts to 3, although greater than 1/3 of West Virginia's population cast a ballot for a Democrat, all of the state's congressional representatives remained Republican. So at least one of these 3 guys is going to have a problem. That would be David McKinley, Alex Mooney, or Evan Jenkins. After West Virginia, we go to Mitch McConnell's state of Kentucky. Excuse me. Okay. Kentucky continues to suffer unequal representation as obviously a result of gerrymandering. Nearly 35% of the vote statewide goes to Democrats, but only, 5 out of 6 representatives are Republican. The strategy of continuing to cram growing urban populations into existing district boundaries has resulted in much of a lopsided representation. The following districts have large urban populations that have been cut out of other districts and attached to sprawling rural areas. And the people that are going to have an issue are going to be people, the Representative Brett Guthrie, he's in 2, and Andy Barr, he's in 6. 6 has Lexington and Frankfort, and that's going to be shifted down. And 2 basically has Bowling Green and Owensboro. You have a lot of black people in these areas, but they got diluted because of this expansion. They're going to redraw those lines, and the minority representation is going to increase substantially, which is going to translate into more Democratic votes being counted in these areas and less Republican votes. So again, they may have a problem. The next state that should be considered is Louisiana. This was a hot one. Republicans somehow figured out how to make Baton Rouge and New Orleans fit into one district. And if you've ever driven that area, Baton Rouge is about 2 hours away from New Orleans. So how they got Baton Rouge and New Orleans into one congressional district is beyond credulity. What's going to end up happening is, as you can see here, 6 does not include Baton Rouge, when Baton Rouge is right up in here. 2 has New Orleans, but they shrunk it down. Over here, if I can move this over a little bit and bring this up, there you go. If the state abides by the court order, number 6 goes from red Republican to blue Democratic, and 2 gets a larger representation as far as the Democrats are concerned. So although the state is still going to be red for the most part, there's going to be a lot more blue. Right now there's 1 Democratic representative and 5 Republican representatives. It's going to go to 2 Democratic representatives and 4 Republican representatives. The guys that may have issues, obviously District 3 is going to shrink down, so Clay Higgins is going to have a problem, and District 6, Gary Graves is absolutely going to have a problem because his district is now going to be dead blue. The next state is the Mormon state, Utah. And everybody knows Utah is a dead red. Right now, as you can see on the, let me move this a little bit. There you go. Right now, every single representative in Utah is a Republican. But with Salt Lake City being highly progressive and with decent population numbers, the 4th district is going to go blue. So it will go from 4 Republicans to 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And the 2 people who are going to have issues, well, one of them is basically has retired. That's Jason Chaffetz. And District 4, which is right here, that's Mia Love's district, and she is the only female black Republican in Congress, and she is absolutely going to be on an endangered species list if that goes blue. But again, the Utah is not under a court order, but if the Supreme Court rules as a lot of people think they are, even though they are Republican-controlled Supreme Court, even they are going to be able to see that a bunch of funny business went on here, and they're probably going to order a redrawing of the district lines. Now, what would gerrymandering be without the state of Texas? Texas has a huge, sprawling urban area that is typically Democrat country, but the Texas GOP maintained a stranglehold on the majority of the state. Earlier this year, the Supreme Court once again struck down 3 districts in Southwest Texas, citing an unfair impact on minorities. What happened there was they had done a updated census on Texas, and they found out that the Hispanic population had increased to such a large number that 5 additional congressional districts needed to be added to Texas. Well, when that happened, of the 5 districts, and again, remember I said that the districts were increased because of the increase in the Hispanic population. 5 districts, 4 of the districts were drawn so that the Republicans would have control of them, and they created only 1 district to give representation to a Democrat, although the increase in the population were Hispanic voters who primarily voted Democratic. Anyway, the districts that are involved are, if you can see it here, San Antonio and Austin. They crammed those together, okay? And the Houston area, right up in here. So they are under court order now to redraw those lines, to unpack San Antonio and Austin out of 1 district and into 2 separate districts, both of which are going to be blue. So that is going to reduce the number of districts for the Republicans. And this little area over here, district number 16, out by El Paso, that's another district that they basically shrunk. So basically districts 23, which is Will Hurd, he's got a problem. Blake Farenthold, he's gone anyway because he's a sexual, pervert. He's District 27. He's gone, and his district is probably going to turn, if not red, blue, or purple, it's going to go blue. And District 31, John Carter, he's going to have a problem as well. Both in the San Antonio and Austin area. And then Houston, they're going to have to do something about Houston because they really diluted Houston's strength as far as Democrats are concerned. Now, Dallas had a little bit of a problem, but not quite as bad as everybody else. But Dallas is going to spread out somewhat in the area right there. Now, Arkansas is next. Arkansas, which is always been considered a dead red state, has remained dead red because they form districts in crazy shapes, horseshoe shapes, donut shapes, etc. So what's going to happen here is District 3, which is up here, District 3 and District 1, those are going to be diluted because they're going to kill some of this, and that's going to be blue, and they're going to kill a bunch of this. And the cities, trying to see this, okay, the cities, you got Harrison, you got Russellville there, you have West Memphis, Jonesboro there. Jonesboro is black, no ifs, ands, or buts, and it's one of the largest cities. Is going to have an issue, and in District 3, Steve Womack's going to have an issue. Now, I love this one. Ohio. Even though President Obama won Ohio in 2012, based on the color of the state, you would think that this state is in the deepest part of the South and there are no Democrats there. And you would almost be right. Right now, as of 2016, there were only 4 Democrats that were able to be elected out of the state of Ohio. District 9, 11, 13, and 3. Ohio is coming under a court order, and they're going to have to redraw the line. So 3 is going to be expanded. District 1 over here is going to turn blue. District 13 is going to be enlarged. 14 is a toss-up. 11 is blue. It's going to remain blue. 9 is going to be more compacted. 16 is going to expand, and 5 is going to turn blue. So that spells out problems for Steve Cabot and Bob Latta, both in right now solidly dead red districts, but with redrawn lines, these 2 guys are going to probably be in for the fight of their lives. Now, Ohio was so bad that the census director in Ohio resigned from his post because after it was discovered that they were damn near as bad as North Carolina as far as using computer models to figure out how to draw the district lines to keep the Republicans in place, and how Mr. Thompson, was preventing various departments from carrying out the census properly, which in effect basically made the drawing of the lines illegitimate, which is what the courts ruled. So the courts have gone in and they now have indicated that with the proper drawing of the lines, instead of 4 Democrats, there'll be 6. Instead of 12 Republicans, there'll be 9. And then you got one state that's a one district that's a toss-up. That's District 14. So anyway, folks, just some information to let you know. When you see all of a sudden the House of Representatives flips, both because of more progressives, or i.e. Democrats or independents, voting Democratic, the other reason that's going to flip is because districts, instead of being basically drawn to protect Republicans, were more fairly drawn, and the proper representation, i.e. Democrats, progressives, were given a chance and won in a much fairer fight.